Welcome, listeners, to episode 6 of the Simply Sports Podcast. I am your host, Josh K, and I'd like to thank you guys for tuning to today's episode. I'd obviously like to start off the episode by thanking our sponsor, IPS Insurance. Insurance so good, you'd hope something bad happens to you. I'd obviously also like to thank you guys for tuning in and supporting the show in any way that you can. This week, we've got a great episode. I have decided to keep it simple for this show. Bringing in our man, the basketball guest, Coach Hutz. We're going to be talking about the NBA Finals, and you're going to get our thoughts on the future of the NBA going forward. I hope you enjoy the show, but of course, before we get to anything else, let's recap what's happening in sports. I won't go too much into detail, but yes, the Lakers did finish off the Heat in 6 games in the NBA Finals to claim the championship for this COVID year. It was interesting. Yeah, the celebration afterwards was definitely different without the crowd, definitely different than the previous years. And it really begged the question, is this championship going to be known as a different setting than the previous ones? We'll get to that in a bit with Greg, but the NFL continued. Big story, the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver, fellow Canadian. I always like to support my Canadians in American sports. He's been amazing. Rookie, going off 4 TDs in 1 game. He's been really showing up. He's the talk of the town right now. Rafael Nadal claimed his 13th French Open title about a week ago, tying Roger Federer for 20 all-time Grand Slams. That is the most of all time. My family is a Roger Federer fan. Let's hope that he won't get another one, but if he does, congrats to Rafa. MLB, the Rays have won their conference championship, are heading to the World Series. Their second time in franchise history. Let's see who they can face between the LA Dodgers and Braves, who are going to a Game 7 tonight. And finally, it is off-season for both NHL and NBA season. You know what that means? Lots and lots of trades. Leafs have already been great with picking up some big players, signing some 1-years, signing Joe Thornton to a 1-year contract. Love to see that. NBA hasn't started just yet, but I'm sure that will get nice and hype soon enough. I'll try and get you guys the information you need on some of those big trades going on. But otherwise, let's get Greg in here. Let's talk about the NBA Finals. I'd like to introduce my guest for the episode, the basketball man himself, Coach Hutz. Greg, you there?
Hey, what's up, buddy? What's going on?
Not much. It's been a little bit of time. We've gone through a couple rounds of the NBA playoffs, but it's done now. Lots of conversation to be had.
Already missing it like crazy. That was such a nice thing to have locked in to most nights, especially when the conference finals were on. Oh man, I'm already missing it.
Yeah, let's jump in right here. I'd like to get your thoughts on this year's finals. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people sort of romanticize the Heat being sort of the upstart. I know they got compared a lot to sort of the 2004 Detroit Pistons. A lot of people, not a lot of people, but they were a reasonable upset pick in a lot of people's minds. And I think after the first game, it was kind of clear that just too much talent between LeBron and AD, too much experience on that Laker, up and down that Laker lineup. And you know what? It was fun. There were some fun moments. Nice to see Jimmy Butler kind of, ascend to sort of the top 10 of the league. It was nice to see him go toe-to-toe with LeBron those couple of games. But in the end, I mean, let's be honest, Lakers were too tough.
Yeah, and I knew going into it, with the season, we all knew I was so excited for the season, totally changing the super teams into it was a season of duos, right? And everyone was talking about
Absolutely.
this duo of Davis and LeBron, comparing who would come out of the West between George and Kawhi versus them, and obviously it wasn't even a question. LeBron and AD were just too good.
No, it was just an unbelievable duo, and you saw sort of the Lakers were able to go to the formula where, their next kind of 5 best players. If you go like Danny Green, Caldwell Pope, Kuzma, Caruso, Rondo, Markieff Morris, those sort of next six guys, you're guaranteed to get 55 points with AD and LeBron. Like, that's just how good they are. And you really only need two of those other guys to have decent games,
Hmm.
and you're already going to be close to 100 points,
And they
right?
did.
So,
And they did.
and they
Like
did
KCP
that, and
going
that
off
was
for like double digits. What, three out of the six, 4 out of the 6 games? That's all you need.
100%. No, and that's, I mean, the whole season, the question, the knock on the Lakers was that supporting cast is pretty dusty,
Hmm.
and I think on any other team, yeah, those guys are atrocious.
Yeah.
But when you have LeBron and AD as your top two guys, you're gonna get a lot of open shots. And like we were just talking about, if you have a bad game, there's a bunch of other guys like right there to pick up the slack. So there's just not as much pressure on you.
Yeah. Oh, speak about open shots. Man, we won't even talk about that Danny Green shot. I don't even want to talk about it. I'm happy that the Miami won that game, but whew, Danny must have
Yeah,
gotten a lot of heat from that.
I mean, he got death threats for,
Yeah,
for that
yeah,
play.
you can describe it that way. Yeah.
I mean, I personally think it's slightly out of whack a little bit. I mean, he missed a 3-pointer, and yeah,
Hmm.
it was pretty damn open. But like, even most of the best shooters in the league are missing open 3-pointers probably 50% of the time,
Hmm.
right? Like, to just expect him to 100% knock down an open three to win the NBA title. I mean,
Hmm. Yeah.
let's get real here. That was a pretty clutch shot, and yeah,
Yeah.
he missed it. I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world.
Hmm. And you know, after watching the playoffs in general, but especially a series like this with guys like Tyler Hero or uh, Kyle Kuzma, it gets you excited about this young core that's coming into the league. And who are you most excited to watch in these next coming years develop in the league after this year's playoffs?
Well, 100% not Kyle Kuzma.
Yeah,
Um,
I tried to be nice to the Lakers there, but I don't think so.
yeah, Kuzma may or may not be in the league in 5 years. We'll have to see.
Yeah,
Um,
he's down to the G League.
yeah. Whereas, yeah, Tyler Hero. I mean, oh my God, some of my favorite playoff moments with that guy. He's going to be unbelievable to watch. Him and Duncan Robinson combo on that young sort of budding, with Bam, and that's going to be so fun on the Heat. And we talked a lot about the Jokic Murray combo. That's going to be unbelievable. And then if you want to really dig down, if you can say, they seem like seasoned veterans. Those guys are still young.
Hmm.
If you really want to start digging down into sort of, the Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Catlino, Suns could be interesting. And I know a lot of people love Trey Young, John Collins, some of those guys on the Hawks.
Hmm.
There's a lot of talent in the league right now. I think Luka, seeing what the Mavs do with Luka and that supporting cast,
Yeah.
if Porzingis can get healthy, I just want to see like what kind of career Luka's going to put up. Like, a lot of the experts are saying he can be an all-time great, and I think
Well,
if anything,
yeah,
he's first.
they've made the early guess that he's one of the front runners to win MVP next year, and
I- and I mean,
it's aggressive,
it's
but it's not
it's
crazy.
aggressive, but one, look at the stats he put up this year. They're ridiculous, like ridiculous. Two, look at how he played against the Clippers. Made a game winning shot. Was averaging 30 points. He's averaging almost a triple double with 30 points a game. Taking over a few of those games in the series. And when you're so clearly the alpha on the team, and you don't have a phenomenal supporting cast, if that's a team that finishes top three in the West, yeah, I think he's going to be right up there for in the MVP voting. I really do.
Hmm. Yeah, and let's transition a little more general here. After what the NBA did an incredible job this year, if I do say so myself.
Spectacular.
what do you think the future of a sport like basketball looks like? And by future, I could mean even 3 months from now. They're planning on doing the opening of the next season, possibly January or March, or it's not that far away.
No, it's not
So
that
yeah,
far
what do you
away.
think about the
And
future?
so from what I've heard, just from some of the other podcasts, etc., and just reading some stuff online, like ESPN and stuff like that,
Hmm.
is I think they're going to wait till fans are able to attend games. I think that's first and foremost.
Hmm.
I don't think there's going to be another bubble situation. Um, Me personally, I love the bubble. And I was one of the biggest skeptics going, one of the biggest critics going in. I didn't think it was going to be great. I didn't think there's going to be any atmosphere. The bubble was amazing. I just, as an owner, you got to make some money. Like, the TV contracts and everything were great, but you need fans in that building, like, paying to be there.
Yeah, and
Like,
you could to convince, they obviously got away with convincing the NBA players to be there for a couple months, but to be there for possibly an entire season, if even if
no,
it's a shortened season, it's still a lot of time, and they're not going to get that much of a break.
no,
So
it's
I think
not.
they're definitely going to have a hard time if they wanna wait until fans. They're gonna have to choose between either we wait much longer because I don't see fans, packed stadiums is what I mean by fans, for a while. And if they don't want to do bubbles, then it might be a lot longer wait than they think.
I mean, it might be years until we see packed stadiums again. Whatever
Hmm.
whatever the stadium arena situation is, it's going to be stuff like half capacity.
Yeah.
If that, I don't know what the numbers are, but you have to assume it's going to be half capacity type stuff. I can only imagine what a pain in the ass it's going to be to get in those buildings. I'm sure there's going to have to be some sort of social distancing in the lines. It's probably going to take forever to get in there. I just don't know what kind of atmosphere, what that does to the enjoyability of
Hmm.
attending some of these games. So I mean, that'll be really interesting to see what the logistics are for fans in attendance.
Yeah. And talk about fans. Obviously, we didn't have them in the NBA playoffs and especially the NBA Finals this year, and it made a big difference. Even watching it live on TV, the atmosphere is totally different. The celebration of the championship was totally, totally weird, in my opinion. So, do you think that this championship means as much as the previous ones, even last year?
Yeah, my answer is yes. And I went in thinking there was no way. Thinking like whatever, like how could this possibly mean anything? But this is something we were talking about, like a month ago or 6 weeks ago, when we first started chatting about this stuff. Is the intensity was so elevated. It felt like in these situations, and if you hear what the players had to say, they're so isolated from society and so isolated from the world, literally living in a bubble, that it became so gladiatorial, where you're coming out into the arena against this other team, and basically this is your only freedom of expression almost, and just like this is where all the focus, the only reason you're in this bubble is for that moment.
Hmm.
And I mean, you saw it. And let's cut through the BS. The best team won. The best player was dominant, and LeBron James and the Lakers were a cut above everyone else. There's no asterisks needed in this situation. The Lakers were the number one seed in the West. They were probably hurt as much as anybody for not getting home court advantage throughout the playoffs.
Hmm.
And they just seemed like the team that was able to handle all the adversity. These guys went through hell with the Black Lives Matter movement, and all the injustices that were going on. And the toughest, mentally toughest, hardest working, probably team with the highest chemistry, that's the team that won.
Yeah. So, it correct me if I'm wrong, but what I hear you saying is that there's no question that the level and the intensity and the just pure, like, go out there and try your hardest by the players was there 100%. But I think we can both agree that a championship like this, with everything going on, is always going to be known as, the different
The
one,
bubble
the
champion, the
outlier,
bubble
right?
championship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll all in my opinion, I don't think it will ever be known as the, like you said, an NBA championship. Maybe you'll call it the bubble championship or the COVID championship. I just don't think it's, with so much going on. I think it maybe just changed it too much.
To me, it's almost like a more of a feather in your cap. Like to be the team that won the outlier, to be the team that kind of like was able to handle all the adversity the best. Like to me, that's more impressive almost than like a regular championship.
Yeah, you're right.
And it really was a dog eat dog, like Lord of the Flies environment. Honestly,
Oh
from what I
yeah,
was
it
seeing,
was it was the
and
the toughest were on top 100%. I got to give you that for sure.
that's what I'm saying. So like, whatever you want to call it, I mean, those guys like that. It's one to remember. Like
Hmm.
I will never forget the bubble playoffs for as long as I live. And I mean, because there wasn't as much going on in the world, because you're not able to do as much. I mean, I was able to lock in these games every single night. And I mean, I think a lot of people were the same way. And I think these guys knew it. Like these games, it felt like meant a lot, and it looked like it meant a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And, last finish. This is a huge opinion-based topic that's been going on in my friend group. A lot of people I talk about after this NBA season is, LeBron won the championship. That's his fourth one. Uh, Big goat debate between him and Jordan, or him and anyone for that matter. So first of all, I'd like to think, did you ever think that there is a GOAT conversation, or have you always just been, no matter what, Jordan's the GOAT?
This is the first time where I'm even having a conversation about it.
Mm,
Where I'm even entertaining conversations about it. I'd say before this kind of bubble run, I was like, just like get away from me. It's Jordan. Don't bother me about this. It's not close. I just when you win three championships with three different teams, and you're the best player on all three teams, despite some of those teams having Hall of Famers. When you get put in a situation like the bubble, you're the richest superstar in the league. You have the least to prove. You could literally just ride off into the sunset and still be at worst one of the two best players of all time. When you start adding that stuff up, it just makes the LeBron stuff more impressive. And Lord knows that I have had my issues with LeBron over the years, of which I'm sure he cares zero. But but when it comes down to it, I think what the argument now has to be, or at least the conversation starter has to be, it can't be argued that LeBron has had the better career, the overall better career at this point. The longevity is a joke.
mm,
It's not. It shouldn't really be. In a decade, he was in nine of the finals. Like, give me a break.
yeah.
Four titles now with three different teams, and just the consistency is outrageous. I just still think that the Jordan peak, and there was two peaks, the three peak twice,
Hmm.
where he was so far and away the best player. Um, it's just that's the tricky one for me. Jordan the better peak, I say, or peaks, and LeBron the better career. It's difficult to compare.
Yeah, and just quickly here to compare to a different sport, is we both know a lot about tennis, and obviously recently Nadal, in the French Open, tied Roger for the most Grand Slams of all time. And so many people that I talk to, and I've never understood it, always compared this GOAT conversation to just pure stats. And I can understand it to a certain extent, but to me, the greatest of all time for a sport has to be so much more than stats. Has to be someone who there is evidence, pure evidence, that they themselves changed the game more than anyone, and showed the most amount of leadership more than anyone. And talk about Roger possibly now in the conversation of maybe not being the GOAT because he's not going to have the most Grand Slams of all time. But I still think, no matter what, Roger's always going to be the GOAT. Same like Jordan. Jordan will always be the GOAT. Greg, you still there?
And I think the Federer debate, and there's a lot of what's that,
Oh, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Josh?
Yep.
Okay. So I was gonna say, yeah, like the Federer debate. I mean, there's so many folks that will live and die with Federer. I don't think it really matters, what happens. I think you're right. I think the Jordan comparison is a very fair and accurate one. I got to be honest though, if if Djokovic had won this French Open, I would have had a tough time, you know, saying he wasn't the best player of all time because that would have been minimum two slams, sorry, two wins at every slam. What I think it's now three Masters. He's won
Hmm.
three at every Masters.
Yeah.
Minimum two. It might be three at every single Masters series, which is a joke. And I mean, aside from just getting dominated by Rafa on clay, he also has the only he's also beaten Rafa at the French Open. Um, I gotta be honest. I think it's between those two guys. I really
Hmm.
do. And I was a diehard Fed for years and years and years, but the numbers those guys have put up, and they still each have a few years left, and they both have heavy winning records against Roger, especially at the slams. And I don't know, it's just getting tougher and tougher for me to put Roger at the top. And I just don't know. I right now, to be honest, I think it's probably Rafa, Novak, Roger, and I know a lot of people are gonna cuss me out, but that's just how I feel about it right now.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? You're
I
right.
mean,
Um.
the first of all, the Rafa. Let's make sure we say it. The Rafa French Open stat. The Rafa French Open stat is just insane. Like maybe the most impressive sport feat ever. It's
Mhm.
got to be in the conversation.
Yeah. It's what he's done on that surface alone is incredible. Truly, truly incredible. I can't
It's
describe anything
standalone.
otherwise.
It's separate from everything else. I think.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Greg? It's always great having you on the show. Talk about all these sports. You always have the unique perspective more than a lot of people I know. So thanks so much for coming on the show. And of course, for Greg for coming in on the show. We did experience some technical difficulties today, but those are the challenges that we live in today in our COVID world. But I hope, of course, you still enjoy the show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hopefully, you can like, subscribe, comment any suggestions you have on the show. We always love to hear it. And you have no idea what sharing can do for my show. If you can't, no pressure. Once again, I'd like to thank our sponsor, IPS Insurance. Without them, none of this would be possible. And if you guys can't watch it on YouTube, plug in your headphones, watch it on Spotify while you're doing some work, walking to school. It's a great way to listen to it in the background if you can't find it online. Well, guys, I'm going to be signing off. That's it for me. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.